Hello, everybody. Welcome to our talk today. And as promised last month, Roberto Watanabe from FESP is here with us. Thank Watanabe for your kindness to be here. As you know, my friends, every single month, Watanabe is with us. And today, he will keep going on the Medium's book explanation is in the realms of mediumship. That's the third part. If you want to go to the part one and part two, I strongly recommend you to go to the FESP YouTube channel or the Irish Spiritist Federation YouTube channel. So you have the recordings there, so you can speed up the process and see everything there. Also, this live it is recorded in our channels, so feel free to enter. And also, it is recording the Kardec Radio because this is a partnership with Kardec Radio as well. So, good evening, Tabio. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine, Esteban. Thank you. And
Good, good.
glad to be here with you all again.
Yes, yes, it's a pleasure to have you here. It is. It is already March. The
Yeah.
times fly here, so it is our time to do it. Let me see if we do have some friends here. So, yeah, so if you have any questions, any doubts, please write the message here for us and let's start. But first of all, let me do the initial prayer. So, I will ask everyone to raise up your thoughts, make connection with superior spirits, with our mentors of this study, mentors of FASP, mentors of High Spiritist Federation, connect ourselves and support our friend Roberto Watanabe in the explanation today. Thank you. Amen. Okay, my friends, let me add it here. I think you can see it.
Yes.
Okay, great. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Okay. Thank you, Esteban. Hello, everybody again. We will continue today the presentation of this book uh, from the spirit André Luiz in the realms of mediumship. We are today we are going to see the third part. Okay. I'm preparing the chapters. The, I'm following the chapters of the book, and here we are going to reach the middle of the book. Okay, and in this book, the spirit André Luiz uh, is who dictated this book to the medium Chico Xavier, the most famous medium in Brazil, and he is describing his experience from the spiritual realm, uh, studying mediumship. Okay, so he and his friend Hilario and his instructor Aulus, they are going in some spirit center here on Earth and observing, but not only the spirit center, because what is interesting in this book is that what André Luiz is demonstrating to us is that mediumship is not something that is confined to the spirit center, but the mediumship is everywhere, on the streets, at home, everywhere. You know? That's what he's demonstrated through in this book. That's why it is a very interesting and important book to complement the knowledge that we get from the medium book from Allan Kardec. And also he shows that the mediumship does not depend on the moral elevation of the medium, right? Uh, it doesn't it's independent of that. That's what we are seeing through this book. And the first two parts, we saw the experience that they had in a certain spirit center, and today they are going to another spirit center, and then there and also on the streets they will observe the mediumship phenomena, right? So that's what we are going to see today. So that's why the night before uh, they were participating in the activities on certain spirit center, and then next evening, Andrea Luiz is saying here, he with Aulus and Hilario are going to another spirit center to proceed with their observation, their study of mediumship. Okay, and then and they are all discarnate spirits, right? Andrea Luiz, Hilario, and Aulus. But of course, as they are here on Earth, they ride on the streets, they enter into the street center, the houses. Okay, so that's what he's showing here. And then they were in the streets in this case, going to the spirit center that they would be going to participate in that night. And then he says, Andrea Luiz says that suddenly a loud shouting grabbed their attention, because two policemen was hauling a drunk man from a cheap bar. So they were walking on the street, right? And then uh, such a drunk man was embraced by a spirit of darkness. You see here, mediumship. The man was embraced by a spirit, right? And both were intoxicated since they were completely juxtaposed, right? So what Andrea Luiz is showing here is that if I, as an incarnate being, have this drunkenness problem, uh, a spirit that has the same kind of a problem will be attracted by me, and then in order to, let's say, to benefit from my drunkenness, right? So that's why such spirit was juxtaposed to the body of the man. And in order to proceed with their observations, Aulus invited them to enter the bar, the cheap bar from where the policeman was taking out the drunk man. And the bar was crowded. The environment's emanation produced an undefinable sense of discomfort, Andrea Luiz says, right? So then, going into the bar, he observed that huddled, he says, around the inveterate smokers and drinkers were sad, discarnate being spirits in a state of longing, right? And some of them found nourishment by inhaling mouthfuls of smoke blown into the air by the incarnate being, right? The incarnate men that are there on the bar. And others were inhaling the breath of impenitent alcoholics, Andrea Luiz says. And then he explained that such spirits, discarnate spirits, upon leaving their physical bodies, they cling to incarnates who are imbalanced in the unpleasant habits they surrendered to. Meaning that such spirits, when they were incarnate, they also had the same, let's say, problem, right? Right, of smoking or drinking. And such spirits, and Luis says, they were wicked spirits using persons, incarnate persons, with whom they are attuned in a perfect communion of inferior forces. So what is this? This is mediumship, right? So that's why the title of this chapter of the book is Corrupted Abilities, because such incarnate beings there inside the bar, they are mediums, right? So that was mediumship at work, Andrea Luiz says, because the incarnate guys there were attracting such spirits, right? So they were acting as mediums. but in a different situation other than in a spirited center, right? And then Aulus, the instructor Aulus, glanced at a nearby reserved room and invited Andrea Luiz and Hilario to go in. And then at the small room, separate from the main room of the bar, he says that at a table well provided with a fine cognac, a young man was writing and smoking heavily under the control of a spirit. You see again, mediumship. The guy was smoking, was drinking also, right? There was this bottle of fine cognac, and he was writing. And his brain was drenched in a dark past substance that flowed from the hands of the spirit, right? The pitiful brother, which is the spirit, entwining him, right? Involving the young man. And he was linked to the spirit imagination and assimilating its ideas. So you see, the spirits are in some way through let's say a kind of a telepathy, is transmitting his thoughts to the young man because he was writing, right? So he was a kind of a writer, and so the young man actually was acting as a psychographic medium, right? A writing medium, we should say. And because the young man wanted to write something dreadful, he had found someone, which is the discarnate spirit, that helped him to accomplish it, right? To write something dreadful. So this is a demonstration here from André Luiz of psychographic phenomenon, right? Which is happening inside a bar. Right? Then you see that mediumship does not happen only on the spirit center, as I said in the beginning, right? But everywhere. And then uh, after observing that, Aulus invited them to leave the small room and to leave the bar, right? To go out of the bar. And then Andrea Luis says that as soon as they went back out on the street, an ambulance went by slowly with its sirens blaring to clear the way. So, like we see on the street, right? And then what Andrea Luiz observed is that in the seat beside the driver was a man with a gray hair, a mature man, framing his pleasant but worried face. Most probably he was a physician, right? Because the ambulance was with his siren, blaring his siren, because most probably there was a sick person inside the ambulance. Then there was a driver and a doctor beside him, right? So, in such a doctor, a physician, and what Andrea Luiz observed is that next to him a spirit. Right? When I say spirit, is always a discarnate spirit, right? In a lily white garment enveloped his head and the head of the physician in a soft, calming radiation of silvery light, right? So it means that it's a good spirit, right, which is supporting the physician on his work of curing ill person, right, ill people, right? So that's why André Luiz says that actually that doctor, he was also a medium, right? A medium of blessed human values, channeling the mental currents of the spirits of the good. So, meaning that a doctor, for example, no matter the religion he has, and he can be even an atheist, right? But if he is doing his work correctly, trying to save the lives of a sick person, they are supported by good spirits. So that's what Andrea Luiz is showing here. And this is happening well, on the street, right? Because the ambulance were there on the street. So mediumship, like I said, is everywhere, right? So that's what Andrea Luiz is showing and demonstrating here. And then they are on their way to the spirit center, right? So then By 8 p.m., he says, they reached the spirit center. They stopped in the front of a building, and then he observed that a lot of people went inside. But what is interesting that once in the lobby of the building, uh, s- uh, they uh, they were separated for some certain spirits that were accompanying them. So meaning that when I go, for example, to a spirit center, if as a is a worker of the spirit center or some looking for help for assistance, we tend to be accompanied by spirits, right? Discarnate spirits, and in the case of a worker, of course, the good spirit, right? But in the case of someone who is going to look for assistance, there were more other kind of spirits, right? And can be even obsessed, right? And then well, why some of these spirits were separated, right? Because Andrea Luis says, right? He explains such spirits they were not merely curious or suffering, but blasphemers and obstinate in evil. Right? So that kind of spirits were not allowed to enter the spirit center, right? Because they would cause a confusion inside, right? So that's why they are separate in the entrance. But what he observed is that most of the other spirits who were accompanying people when going inside the center were afflicted and sick spirits. So, in as much need of fraternal help as those they were accompanying. So, you see, if I go to a spirit center look for assistance, some discarnate spirits also can accompany me, and they also are going there looking for assistance. So just like me, right? So that's why I mentioned the next last month that in the spirit center we do not assist only the incarnated people who go there, right? But also the discarnated people, right? So that's what Andrea Luiz is showing here, right? And then as they went, they is Andrea Luiz, Hilario, and Aulos, right? As they went in, they saw a respectable looking woman who was listening attentively to various patients, right? To various people that went there on the spirit center. And then she was Sister Ambrosina, who for over 20 years has sought to offer her best to Christian mediumship. So this is all explained to Andrea Luiz, right? And then what Andrea Luiz observed is that on her head, amid her graying hair, he was a mature woman, a small cone of a light, right? Rested the light, a delicate adornment, right? So that's something interesting that Andrea Luiz observed, and then he asked you, Aulus, about what was that, right? And then Aulus explained that that was an ultra sensitive magnetic device through which Ambrosina, the medium, was in constant contact with her spiritual mentor, right? And her spiritual mentor in this case was also the director, mentor, spiritual director of the Spirit Center. And because of those 20 years of work on her mediumship at that Spirit Center, uh, she received what is called a mediumistic service mandate. That's the title of this chapter, right? The mediumistic mandate, meaning that when a medium or worked for a long time and uh, helping others with his mediumship, there come a time when they receive a mediumship mandate. So a kind of a special, let's say, um, a special title, right? It's kind of a title from the higher spheres, right? Spheres. So that was her situation here. She deserved it, right? Such mandate because of the her good work for for 20 years. And then Andrea Luis says that a few moments later, Gabriel, which is the lead mentor of the center, and which is also the mentor of Ambrosina, the medium, entered the room accompanied by discarnate doctors, teachers, nurses, and auxiliaries. They were ready to serve in the harvest field of the good, Andrea Luis said, right? So it's a team of discarnate spirit, right? Because in every spirit center, we work together, right? We as incarnate workers together with the discarnate workers. And here is the discarnate team, right? Led by Gabriel. And then Ambrosina sat down beside the director of the session. He is the incarnate director, right? Who said a prayer, right? To start every activity begin with a prayer, like Esteban just did here, right? And then Gabriel, the spiritual mentor, stood beside her. Ambrosina is medium, is incarnate, right? And he applied the longitudinal passes to prepare her for the evening activities. Actually, Ambrosina is a psychographic medium, right? So she will write during her activities, as we will see. And then next, Andrea Luis says that an edifying text for a doctrinal book was read, followed by a brief evangelical message, right? So that's what we have at the beginning of the activities on the Spirit Center, on every Spirit Center, right? uh, just before the activities. And then in the room, dozens of people, those who are entering right, into the Spirit Center, uh, were crowded around the room, right, exhibiting tribulations and difficulties because, well, they were there to the spirit, into the Spirit Center to look for assistance, right, spiritual assistance. And Ambrosina was the center of everyone's trust and the object of their attention because she was the main worker there on that night there, right? So at least on this psychographic activity, right? Because there was on other activities also. We'll see soon. And then Andrea Luis says that several sheets of paper were placed next to her as she prayed. She was preparing herself, right, to begin her activity. And what was those sheets of paper? They were not they were Andrea Luis said that they were petitions, wishes, and appeals from the attendees, right? So the guys went into the Spirit Center and then they write on sheets of paper what was the problem they were looking assistance for. Right? And then Andalus says that a wide elastic band of bluish light could be seen between Ambrosina and Gabriel. So here you see that the connection, strict connection between her and the spiritual mentor, right? Kind of this band of light, bluish light, and then the spirit friends which came right together with Gabriel, doctors, nurses, auxiliaries. Such spirit friends, they entered such a band in order to respond to such petitions, wishes, and appeals. Right? So that's what's happening here. And they responded through Ambrosina mediumship. Right? Actually, she's going to write right the spirit friends responses to the petition. So that's what is going to happen here. And then one by one, such spirit friends, they took the medium's arms, Ambrosina arms, to respond right, as far as possible to the problem. And then Ambrosina tirelessly, under the says, psychographed under the guidance of such instructors who took turns one after the other in the assistance task, right? So let's say for this problem, some attendees that went there they have a health problem, right? So then the spirit doctor, which is more knows better about that health problem, he goes into the band and responds right to such a problem through Ambrosina. So that's what happened here. And then while Ambrosina was and the others the spirits were fulfilling their edifying duties, responding to the soul petitions, those petitions, Aulus invited Andrea, Luis, and Hilario to go to another room, right, on the Spirit Center. So then we're going to see another service on that Spirit Center, which is the service of a passage, right? The passage on the Spirit Center. So then he says that they crossed the door and were greeted by a soothing and luminous ambient, right? Ambient of where the passage would be applied, right? And inside the room, there was an elderly gentleman and also a distinguished lady, and they were in prayer, surrounded by an aura of light, as we said, right? And they were Clara and Enrique, two healing mediums. So here we have another kind of a medium, right? Healing mediums, who provided assistance under the guidance of the spiritual friends also, right? So again, this another room, there were these two mediums and also the spiritual team, right? Of this kind is good spirits there. And on the other side of the closed door, that's well, waiting, right, for out of this room. There were afflicted and rowdy people just over each other, waiting for the preparation to finish. Preparation is the praying, right? That Clara Henrique was accomplishing there inside the room, and so people were waiting outside uh, to start well, because when this activity start, they would enter the room to receive the passes, right? So, and then standing next to Enrique, that we says, was Conrado, the spirit guide of that service, that healing service there, right? So, then when Enrique and Clara they finished their preparation, then Conrado tapped Enrique's shoulders as if to remind him of the work schedule. It's time to start, right? The work. And then what is interesting is that Conrado is a discarnate being, right? Enrique is incarnate, a medium. And then what Andres says that Enrique does not register, right, the gesture, right? Meaning that he does not feel the tapping, right, of Conrado on his shoulder, but he let's say received the message intuitively, and then they get up from the chair he was sitting where he was seated, and then he go down the door and open the door, right, in order to people to come in. And then patients of all kinds entered with great hope, as we said, right? And after being attended to, let's say, receiving the passes, they all left with obvious signs of comfort, right? Because a passes is a transfusion of energy, right? So always we will explain that soon. And then Andrea Luis observed that the pass givers, which is Clara and Enrique, the woman and the man, uh, the old man, they were like two human batteries emitting rays of multiple kinds, right? Because this is the energy, right, that they transmit to the people who enter there in the room. And such rays, Andrea Luis says, flowed from their hands after passing through their heads upon contact with Conrado and his collaborators. So, meaning that if I am a healing medium, when I give a pass to someone, I am donating some of my fluid, right, my own fluid. But most of the better fluid that I transmit to the patient is not from me, right? It's from the spiritual team. So that's why Conrad and his collaborator, or discarnates, they are in contact with the mind of Enrique, and then transmitting their fluids to Enrique, and then so that Enrique can transmit their fluids together with his own fluids to the patients, right? So that's what's happening here. That is a healing service, right? And then, since some of the patients didn't improve at all, Paulus explained that the reason was lack of faith. So this is something very interesting also, because I, as a healing medium, I can um, give a path to a patient with the best of my sentiment, right, of alleviating his problem, and with the assistance of the spiritual team. But if the patient does not have enough faith to receive that path, nothing will happen. So that's why Andrade Luiz observed that some patients did improve at all. So it's like I, I, I give the path, I try to transmit my fluid together with the spiritual team fluid, but it's like something that go inside let's say the head of the patient, but spread away, right? So does not enter, let's say, into his spiritual body. So uh, here we say how the mental position, right, of the patient is important. If he receives the path with faith, he will receive the fluids. If he have a doubt, or he are not doesn't have his faith, then the path will not work. But does not mean that the path is not good. It's him that is not prepared, right, to receive. So because of that, the magnetic radiations could not penetrate their organic vessels, right? And that we says. So that's something interesting to observe here. And then Aulus decided to show a specific example to Andrea Luiz and Hilario, and he's approached an elderly woman who had just entered the room seeking help, right? Then Andrea Luiz says that the woman had difficulty standing up with her large abdomen, and was grimacing in pain. She was uh, feeling a lot of pain, right? And then he observed that her liver was dilated, right? The hepatic cells looked like a large beehive working under enormous stress, right? So the cells from her liver, was working very stressed, right? With difficulty. And then Conrad explained that the problem was caused by a terrible fit of rage that she threw at home, right? So, uh, let's say an explosion of anger that she had on her home, right? So, and perturbed and giving in to exasperation, she developed this obstinate hepatitis, right? Which is the disease from her liver. So that's why he was feeling pain and having all this problem. So then Conrado placed his hand on the medium's forehead, on Clara in this case, right? And sent her a radiant current of energy. So it's interesting that Conrado, the spiritual mentor, is placed his hand on the medium's forehead, or Clara's forehead, right? And then that inspired her, Clara, to move her hand over the patient from her head down to the liver, right? So it's such movement here, right? So, and then the ill woman, right, sick woman, displayed an unmistakable expression of relief, and Luis said, right, on her face. And then she leaves visibly happy, promising that she would return to continue the treatment. So this is a specific case, right, where Aulus is demonstrated to Andrea Luis the effect, right, that caused the problem that the woman had, the cause of such problem, and then the help that he had on that moment, and the factor, right, of the passes upon her. So that was the service of the observation on the healing mediumship, right? Then I'll explain to André Luiz and Hilario that passes are a transfusion of energies that alter the cellular field, right? So the passes, although are energies also, fluidic energies, they at the end of the day they have a positive effect on ourselves, right? On the cellular field, on our physical body. We receive it on our perispirit, the fluid, on our spiritual body. But then from our spiritual body, such fluids go to our physical body. So that's why Aulo says that in magnetic assistance, emission and reception of fluids, right, are intertwined, right, helping needy patients so that they can help themselves. And what this is also very interesting here, right? And I will explain that the re-energize the mind revitalizes the microscope lives that serve it in the temple of the body. So, what are always explained here? What is explained is that if I go to a spirit center looking for assistance for a health problem, for example, right? If I receive the passage, well, before that, I listen, right, to the reading of a doctrinal text, the explanation of evangelical message, and all of those are to prepare for the passage, right? Then I go into that passage room and I receive that passage with faith. What happened at that moment? What happened that I myself, my mind, my re-energized mind revitalizes my cells, the cells of my body. So that's something very important that André Luiz always explained here, right? So when I go to, when I receive the passes, it's not only a matter of I receiving a transfusion of an energy from the healing medium and from the spiritual team. I myself work on myself, right? Because on that situation, I my mind is re-energized, right? So and then I, in some way, I revitalize my own cells of my body. So that's what André Luiz is saying here, right? So there is a personal work, let's say, right, on all this process here. And therefore, Aulo says, passes are an important contribution for those who know how to receive them, right? Receive the passes with the due respect and trust, right? With faith. And so that's some details, right, that we are seeing here about the service of the passes. And then, as the word continued there on the room, as they observe they have enough observation. Then they said farewell to the supervisor or and to Conrado, and then they returned to the main room. Right? And then in the main room, Ambrosina was there psychographing, right? Several messages addressed to the attendees. Right? The responses from the spiritual team to the petition from the incarnate person who was there, right? Who went there to look for assistance. And Hilario asked to Aulos if such messages from the spiritual team would resolve definitely, right, the problems of all of those who went there on the spirit center. And then Aulos said no, right? So, since there is always a gap between help and solution in any difficulty. What is Aulos is saying here is that is when I go to a spirit center looking for assistance, is not correct to expect, right, that the spiritual team and the workers of the spirit center will resolve entirely my problem, right? There is always a need of my own effort to resolve my problem. So that's why I always said, right, it would be logical to expect the mentors to free ourselves from all human struggles, right? For all the problems that we have, we also, well, mainly we, I would say, we needed to work hard, right, to resolve my own problems. And of course, the mentors and the assistance that I receive in the Spirit Center help me to resolve such problems, but they will not resolve for themselves, right? I must contribute myself to resolve my problem, helped by all this assistance. So that's what Paulus is saying here. And then they observed a woman who was there, right? Who was there on the room, right? Waiting for a message, right? And then in this case, she had lost a son, and then she went there looking for a message from her son, right? So that's why he was thinking, and you see, Andrea Luis, Aulus, and Hilario was there, and they kind of can read the thought of the woman, right? And then she was thinking for herself, my son, right? Calling her son, her dead son, actually, right? If you are not dead, please visit me. Come. If all is not over, approach the medium, which is Ambrosina, and communicate or giving a message, right? Through Ambrosina to me. So that's what she was expecting there. And then Andrea says that her bitter words, although unarticulated, because she was only thinking, she was not saying, right? And but reached their ears of the team at Andrea Luis as if flung into the air in a muted voice, right? So they can kind of read, right, the thought of people. So that's something that the spirit can do, right? And a discarnate young man, which is the son, the woman's son, appeared in a deplorable condition, Andrea Luis says, right? And from his curled lips poured all his anguish. Huh? He says, Mother, I'm here. Of course, the spirit is saying his mother could not hear, right, what he was saying. And he says, Mother, I'm here. I'm not dead. Huh? She was physically dead, right? But as we as spirits are immortal, then he was not dead, right? Actually. And he says, Forgive me. I'm a rebel. I'm a castaway. Huh? I sought death when I should have lived for your love. So, meaning that it was a suicide, right? That happened here. And then the mother felt his presence through an undescribable anxiety oppressing her chest, right? So that is very interesting because she cannot hear what he's saying, but he feel in another way the situation, right? The anguishing of her son, right? And by feeling such that anxiety oppressing her chest, right? And then two workers, right, or spiritual workers from the spirit center approached and took the young man from his mother's lap, right, because he was close to her, and because he was not in any condition of giving a message to her, right. So, and then they Andrea Luis and Aulus and Eladio, they hear her clamor mentally, right? Again, she's thinking, and they are reading her thought, right? And she think, well, wouldn't it be better to follow him, her son, to die in rest? My son, I want my son. So he herself also was thinking about suicide, right? So then Aulus applied the magnetic passes, after which the poor woman felt great relief. So you see the interesting situation here. If you look from our incarnated side, we see a woman that went there look for a message and go home without any receiving any message at all, right? So we would say, well, nobody was assisted that night, right? The woman was not assisted that night. On the contrary, right? Not only her son, her dead son, was assisted, but also her also was assisted, right? She also was assisted. And then Aulus explained, right, what had the case of the poor misguided mother. So he said, well, her son committed suicide a few months ago, and she hasn't been able to calm her inner torment, right? Because she's feeling uh, she's missing, right, her son. And in her love and devotion, she pleads him to communicate through the medium, right? But what she doesn't realize is that the young man's shocking situation would cause her dreadful suffering because when a person suicides, the situation on the spiritual realm is far from a good situation, right? So that's why if he could communicate, she would she would see this shocking situation that he was going through, and that would cause her more suffering, right, than alleviation. So, for that reason, she could not receive his son words directly, right? But however, Paul says, by being in contact with the spiritual work carried out on the spirit center, she will acquire new energies to gradually recover. And who knows if in the future, when her son is in a better situation, he can communicate, right? So that's what we can see a description from the guys from the spiritual realm, from the spiritual point of view, describing to us incarnates what they are looking for from their point of view, right? So that is very interesting here, right? So that's what all this book is about, right? So that's where the four chapters that we had to present today. Then they are going here to the um, end of the activities, right? So Ambrosina uh, paused it to recuperate from her graphic activity. Then the meeting director asked for silence in order to end the night's work, right? So then the groups of workers of the patients there on the room, they quieted down, and then Gabriel, the spiritual mentor, dictated a message through Ambrosina with a few concepts regarding mediumship, right? I didn't describe it here because it's something that we also saw another message, right, on the previous Spirit Center. It's very similar. And after that, a brief prayer of acknowledgement followed, and the meeting was over. Right? This activity on the Spirit Center was over. And then Andrea Luis and Hilario, who are students here of mediumship, he says that they entered into a deep introspection to better learn and meditate about what they had seen that night, right? Not only in the Spirit Center, right, but also on the bar, on the street, right? All cases of mediumship, which happens not only in the Spirit Center, but everywhere, right? So that's what uh, something very interesting that we can learn here from Andrea Luis' description, right, of his of their experiences. So this is the four chapters, and then next month we will proceed, right, with another chapters. Then I hand over back to Esteban. Esteban?
Olá, meu amigo.
Would like me to finish, Esteban?
Não, eu tô com problema no meu computador aqui. I have problems with my internet here. Would you mind to do the final prayer, my friend?
Yeah, I will do when I finish. Okay, so let's finish it then with our final prayer, and thank you to be with me today. And then next month we will proceed with our study, right, on the 15th of April. So let's thank you all the spiritual benefactors for all the assistance during our presentation today. And we also would like to thank you, Jesus, for this another opportunity to be reunited here in His name. And finally, we would thank to God, right? By the gift of life and all these opportunities that we have to understand better the meaning of our life, right? Where we to understand where we came from, where we are going to, and what we are doing here on Earth, which is at the end of the day to work for our spiritual evolution. So be it. Okay.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Watanabe.
Thank you.
Wish you all a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.